Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. One more added to the positive column of Monkey Pox in Jamaica. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 28th March 2023. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Multi-Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. A woman has tested positive for monkey pox in the parish of St. Catherine in Jamaica. More in this HGP News item with Joel Vogt.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness made the disclosure in its monkeypox update on Tuesday, noting that the latest positive case, which is the first since January, brings the island's total number of confirmed cases to 19 to date. The ministry has classified the latest case as a local transmission. However, there is now only one active case locally. Since Jamaica recorded its first monkeypox case in July last year, 17 persons have recovered from the virus while one patient died, but that death has since been classified as having been coincidental. The virus is a rare disease resulting from infection by the monkeypox virus and is a zoonotic disease that is part of the family of variola viruses, which cause smallpox. Symptoms of the virus are similar to those characteristic of smallpox, but milder.
Still on Jamaica, a cleric arrested in his native Jamaica extradited to New York to face state terrorism charges on accusation of recruiting support for the Islamic State group has been sentenced to 18 years in prison. More in this Tiana Cole HGP News item.
Abdullah El-Fasal was convicted in January in State Supreme Court in Manhattan on counts of including soliciting or providing support for an act of terrorism. The state law he was prosecuted under was put in place after the September 11, 2001 attacks, and the prosecutor said his case was the first state-level trial on terrorism charges. El-Fasal was extradited to New York City in 2020 after being arrested in Jamaica in 2017. Beginning in 2016, authorities said an undercover officer in New York City posed as a would-be jihadist and started communicating with the cleric. The cleric was accused of giving out information to help the officer ultimately connect with the Islamic State group. Prosecutors said El-Fasal had supported the Islamic State organization for several years. They said he was very influential, using online lectures to encourage violent acts and advocating for an Islamic caliphate. He had previously served prison term in Britain after being convicted of incitement and stirring racial hatred, and had also been deported from Kenya.
While the opposition PNP demands the finance minister withdraw his comments and apologize to opposition leader Mark Golding for controversial remarks, former Speaker of the House Lloyd B. Smith says all of Jamaica deserves an apology over what he describes as unparliamentary language used in the House. Nicola Brown of CVM Live reports.
Unfortunate, insulting and derogatory. That's how former Deputy Speaker of the House, Lloyd B. Smith, referred to the testy exchange made on Tuesday during the closing of the budget debate by Minister of Finance and the Public Service Dr. Nigel Clark. This comes after the opposition called for Dr. Clark to withdraw what is perceived as discriminatory. His Massa Mark comment in describing opposition leader Mark Golding.
The minister should have had a greater sense of history, because if he did, he would know that the term massa is extremely racist, because it speaks to those slave owners who for many, many years, hundreds of years, brutalized, raped, killed men and women who were from Africa as part of the Atlantic slave trade.
Clark's words reference Golding's comment, while the opposition leader was addressing comrades recently in characterizing claims of a sabotage during the Prime Minister's budget presentation as fools. Smith, however, notes Dr. Clark owes the country an apology.
He should seek to make amends not only to the Parliament and to Mark Golding, but to the country as a whole. After all, our motto is out of many, one people.
While reiterating Jamaica is a multiracial society, he notes the Speaker of the House should also reprimand Dr. Clark.
The Speaker of the House ought to have cauterized the situation by gaveling him when he made the first utterance. Instead, she seemed to have been quite okay with it.
Nicola Brown for CVM Live.
Trinidad and Tobago's Attorney General has sought to assure that there is no ongoing dispute with the current holder of the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions, Roger Gaspard. Details in this TTT News item.
He was questioned on this in the lower house on Friday. The AG was asked to provide the House with an update of his publicized meeting with the DPP on the ongoing disputes over the issue of resources and performance of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
My meeting with the Director held on Wednesday, the 15th of March at my office discussed a number of matters relevant to the respective mandates of the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Director of Public Prosecutions Office, and my office's support for the independent remit of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. At the end of a fruitful meeting, the Director and myself agreed then that the subject of our discussions will not be conducted in the public domain. Those discussions are not concluded.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Political leader of the National Transformation Alliance in Trinidad and Tobago and former police commissioner Gary Griffith says he can transform Trinidad and Tobago. But first, he shared his thoughts on the Prime Minister and the first female top cop, Erla Christopher. TV6's Nicole M. Romney has more.
Last week, the DPP called for more staff at his office, citing issues of staff shortages and under-resourcing. He warned that the justice system was on the brink of collapse. However, the Attorney General denied that request and accused the DPP of underperforming and said the staff shortage was an unsatisfactory explanation for that. On Friday, Chief Justice Ivor Archie issued a statement and laid blame for what is being termed the crisis at the DPP's office squarely on the underperformance and lack of action by the DPP. The opposition UNC has since repeatedly accused the government of attacking the Director of Public Prosecutions. But at the post-cabinet conference on Thursday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley rubbished the claims. Today, Mr. Griffith tells TV6 he's not buying it.
The audacity of Keith Rowley to feel that he can fool and manipulate the country by saying that there's not an attack on the DPP.
He also shared his views on the crime situation, the police commissioner, and her call for spiritual intervention to aid in the fight against crime.
Nobody is questioning the fact that you should not have some type of spiritual intervention, but the fact of the matter is that if that's the case, well then the Archbishop or someone should apply for the top cop position next time. This is not the fault of Erla Christopher. Erla Christopher did not impose herself on us. We can't be blaming Erla Christopher. And I ask the country, we need to back off for a while. And instead of absorbing and putting pressure on Erla Christopher, we should try our best to try to help her and try to support her. As I said, she didn't impose herself there.
Griffith says the ones to blame are the persons who appointed her. Nicole M. Romney, TV6 News.
Over in the Bahamas, the government there to address immigration breaches following Supreme Court ruling.
Meantime, the government's looking to address and prevent future immigration breaches following a Supreme Court ruling in January that determined immigration officer Norman Bastian falsely imprisoned, sexually assaulted, and battered a Jamaican woman who had been released into his custody to verify her address in December 2014. Now, the victim, Claudia Edwards Bethel, filed a civil suit in 2019 after her rape case was thrown out in a magistrate's court, but died in hospital in May 2021 from COVID after having a baby. Minister Bell addressed how female detainees are handled.
Well, first of all, you would note that when we took office, we recruited 174 new officers. 3/4 of that squad is comprised of female immigration officers. But let me say the basic policy of immigration, as well as all law enforcement, that no female who is in custody in any of our law enforcement agencies ought to be handled or treated by a male enforcement officer. They have always been dealt with by female officers. That has always been the case. It is not changed, and that is etched. And so to the extent where there has been a breach, we will determine how we will address and fix the breach to ensure that it doesn't happen in the future.
ZNS News also reports FTX US takes legal action against Bahamian liquidators of FTX digital markets.
A legal wrangling in the FTX matter continues. This as the new CEO of the bankrupt cryptocurrency exchange, John Ray, has taken legal action to block Bahamian liquidators overseeing the wind down of its Bahamian affiliate, FTX Digital Markets, by asking a U.S. bankruptcy judge in Delaware to rule that FTX Digital Markets has no ownership interest in FTX.com's cryptocurrency, intellectual property, and customer relationships. According to Reuters, FTX is wrongly claiming ownership of the exchange's assets. This latest move by Ray is in opposition to a recent cooperation agreement reached between debtors in the United States and the 3 joint provisional liquidators appointed here in the Bahamas, overseeing the winding down of FTX Digital Markets. Meantime, former FTX CEO and founder Sam Bankman-Fried is out on $250 million bail pending his fraud trial on October 21st.
A former mayor of a rural town in Haiti was arrested on U.S. visa fraud charges midweek last week, a day after a jury ordered him to pay U.S. $15.5 million over allegations that he led a campaign of murder and other acts of violence against his political opponents. HGP's Joel Vogt again has more.
Federal prosecutors in Boston said Jean Villano, 50, illegally obtained a green card, allowing him to live permanently in the United States by falsely claiming he had not ordered or carried out extrajudicial and political killings in Haiti. Prosecutors said, in fact, he personally committed or ordered harm, humiliation, or death of his opponents after being elected to a 4-year term. He successfully sought a visa in 2008. The indictment came a day after a jury ordered him to pay $15.5 million in a lawsuit by 3 Haitians. The case shed a light on widespread violence that has plagued Haiti, where armed gangs have been expanding their territory, kidnappings have become frequent, and gun battles between police and crime groups are routine. The lawsuit was filed in 2017 under the Torture Victim Protection Act, which allows for U.S. lawsuits against foreign officials accused of extrajudicial killings or torture when avenues for redress in their home countries are exhausted.
Hubbard's is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at HubbardsHardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.